Hey loves, and welcome back to my channel. So these are the materials that we'll be needing for this video. The video is very long, so I had to divide it into two parts, the cutting part and the sewing part, so that I can have the space to explain better. So you will need your fabric, your doll face, your pad, your hard net and your bone. So first of all, I want to draft the pattern. I have measured my shoulder. This is a blouse. This pattern that I'm making is for a blouse, so it is not a gown. I want to make it for a blouse. Then I'll measure my bust point, that is 10.5, my under bust 14.5. The half length is supposed to be 17.5, but I made it 18. Then the full length of this blouse, it is a corset blouse, so I don't want to make it long. I want it to be at 23 inches. You can make yours 22 inches, then plus 2-inch seam allowance, that is 25. I've labeled the bust point, under bust, half length, full length and allowance. So from the bust point, you come up by 2 inches. So this place where I marked right now is my chest line. 2 inches above your bust point is your chest line. So I am marking the line, and after that I will draft my armhole. I'll connect my armhole to the chest line. I'll also go ahead and label this chest line so that we will not get confused. So the next thing that I will do is to measure my neckline. This neckline is a turtle neckline, so I want to use 2.5 by 2.5. The wideness is 2.5, the depth is 2.5. So I connected, and I also measured 1 inch for my shoulder slant. I measured my 1 inch and I connected. So I'll measure 4 inches from my dart line, that is at the bust point. I measured 4 inches. The nipple to nipple is 8, so that is 4. I'll fold, and I will extend this 4 inches line down to my full length and my allowance line. Then after that, I will come up by 1.5 or 1 inch, depending on how high you want your breast to be covered. So from the chest line, I extended my dart line by 1 inch or 1.5, it depends. Then from there, I will make a sweetheart neckline. Can see how I am making this. So right now you are free to determine how deep you want your yoke, how deep you want your yoke or your skin net to be. So I wanted mine to stop at the bust point, and then I connected the other side of the sweetheart, and then I'll label my yoke. So I want to measure my breast curve now. At the under bust, I went in by 2.5. At the under bust, I used 2.5. If you are making it for a small bust, 2 is okay. You can use 3 if you want as well. Then right now, I will connect my under bust to my bust point. Then at the chest line, I will go in by 1 inch. At that sweetheart neckline, I went in by 1 inch, and I connected that 1 inch to my bust point as well. So right now you can see that our breast curve is out. So what I'll do right now is to shade the part that I will cut out so that I will not get confused. So I'll go ahead and cut off that part that I have shaded right now. So I'll cut out my neckline, shoulder slant, armhole. Then I'll go ahead and cut off this shaded part. We don't need it. So after that, I'll also cut out my yoke. So now that I'm done cutting it out, I will notch my under bust. Then after notching, I will place this center piece on top of the side piece so that the breast curve will be covered. You can see I have closed that space that I cut out. So right now you will take your bust measurement divided by 4 plus 2 inches seam allowance. The same thing at the waist. So at the hip, if you want, at the full length, if you want, you can divide your hip by 4 and then mark what you got. If you also want, you can just extend your waistline straight down. So at the full length, I divided my hip by 4 and I added just 1 inch seam allowance. Do not add more than 1 inch seam allowance after dividing your hip. So after that, I will go ahead and connect this line, and I will also cut out. So I'll connect my half length under bust, and then I'll connect to the bust point, and now to the full length. So after doing this, we'll cut out. So after cutting this out, we'll use this front pattern to draft the back pattern. We'll use this front to draft the back. So at the full length, you can come up by 3 or 4 inches at the side, and then you will curve. I want it to have this a small basque shape at the full length. If you want to keep yours straight, fine, but giving it a small curve or basque is better. So this is what we have at the end of the day. We have our yoke, our center piece, and our side piece. So this is the pattern for the back part. I'll go ahead and place my front on the back. You place it in a way that you can see how I'm placing it. So I'll cover that I will cover that breast curve area. You can see you can no longer see the breast curve area. This method is always easy for me to avoid a lot of measurements. So I have closed the dart, then I placed my yoke. So right now I'll go ahead and add a zipper allowance. If you check the thumbnail, it has a zipper allowance. They did not lace it at the back, so I added 2 inches for my zipper allowance. You can use 1.5 if you want. Then I am currently marking my zipper allowance line. So after that, you will indicate where the neck width is, and then you use your marker to trace out the shoulder slants, the armhole, and the side of this blouse. So tracing out these will help you to avoid new measurements and all that. So you can see how I'm tracing my armhole. I'll also trace the side of the front. So for the back piece, the full length will stop at that curved area. It will be at that curved area. I don't want the back to be curved. I want it to be straight at the back. So only the front will be curved. You can see that the full length of this blouse stopped at that point where I curved my front piece. So that is it. Then I'll go ahead and mark a straight line. Like I told you guys, this back part will not have any curve. So this is what I have right now. You can see I also indicated where my neck width is, the 2.5 neck width. So for the neck depth, I came down by 1.5. The neck depth of the back is 1.5. Then I will connect that 1.5 to the 2.5 inches that I marked earlier. So right now you are free to determine the depth of your yoke, like where you want your yoke to stop at. So I want the back part to go down a bit. I want it to stop at 10 inches. So I measured 10 from the shoulder and I marked my line. So this is where my yoke will stop at, and I'll also go ahead and label this as my yoke so that I'll not get confused. So right now I'll go ahead and cut out my neckline, the shoulder slant, the armhole, and the rest of the back piece, and that is all for this back piece. So after that, I will go ahead and cut this out on my doll face. But before that, we will have to draft our sleeve. You can see the sleeve is an exaggerated sleeve, leg of mutton sleeve. So the thing is that the sleeve does not have any joining at any point. So I'll show you guys how to draft out that sleeve, and that is the reason why I used a hard net. Like I told you guys earlier, we use a hard net for this blouse. I'll use it on the sleeve. So I ran out of pattern paper. I had to join the pieces of the ones that I have. Please bear with me, but we will understand. So right now I'll go ahead and fold this pattern paper. I want to use this to draft my sleeve. So I'll fold my pattern paper and I will draft a basic sleeve so you can see what I have. And make sure that this pattern paper is like up to 27 inches or 29 inches, because this sleeve will be kind of longer than normal. So place 24 inches at the full length. The full length is 24. Then you will mark where the tape stopped. Like I placed 24 at the full length of this sleeve, and then I marked where the tape stopped. So I drew a line there. Then from that line that you marked, that line area is your armhole area, right? So you come down by 12 inches. This 12 inches is our elbow. The elbow area is at 12 inches, so I'll mark a line there as well. So after that, you go ahead and measure your round sleeve. You measure the wrist. The wrist is 8 inches divided by 2, that is 4. I measured 10. The elbow is 10 inches, so I measured 5 inches there. Then I measured 7 inches. The sleeve area, upper hand is 14 inches, so I measured 7 inches there. So after that, I will connect these lines. So after connecting the lines, the next thing that you will do is to add your seam allowance. So I added 1 inch seam allowance around this sleeve area, and that is okay. So after connecting the sleeve, you go ahead and after marking the allowance, you go ahead and connect the seam allowance for this sleeve. So after that, if you want your sleeve to be puffy, like if you want yours to be puffy, very very puffy, you will have to extend this sleeve at the shoulder area or at the armhole area. I'll show you guys how to do that. So from that line where I marked initially, you will go up by 3 inches or 4 inches. It will go up by 3 or 4 inches. That is if you want yours to have a puffy sleeve, a high puff. But I will not use that, but I'm just showing you guys in case you want yours to have a puffy sleeve. So I'll go ahead and cut that out. So this is how it looks. I'll go ahead and open up this pattern paper, and then I will extend this elbow line, that middle line. You can see I'll go ahead and extend this elbow line. Then I'll also mark a straight line at the center of this sleeve, and that straight line will stop at the elbow line. It will stop at the elbow line. So you go ahead and slash this. Then you will slash the horizontal part. You slash the left side and the right hand side, and that is all for this pattern right now. So when you open it up, this is what you will have. So before cutting on your fabric, you open it up this way. So here is my fabric. I don't want to cut. You will not cut out your sleeve on fold. You will have to open up that pattern paper the way I opened it up. So after spreading your fabric, you place the pattern paper on it, and you can see the way I spreaded the pattern. If you want your sleeve to be fuller, you go ahead and spread it more. So I don't want mine to have that high puff, so I had to reduce that puff area. So right now I will go ahead and spread this sleeve as wide as I want. This depends on the amount of fabric you are using for this. If you have enough fabric, I think you should spread it more. So I have spreaded mine, and you can see how I am cutting it out. So at the upper part, you will cut this way. You can see what I have there, right? So this is our sleeve. So I didn't like the wideness of this sleeve. I wanted it to be wider than this, so I had to cut out another one. So this is how this sleeve will look to avoid any joining at the elbow area. So this is what I have. I had to cut out another one, and this one is wider, and when we reached the elbow area, it became slim or fitted. So I'll go ahead and cut out my pattern on my doll face first. So add 1/2 inch seam allowance at the center piece. So after cutting on my doll face, I will cut out on my lace. So if you are making this, I will suggest a doll face as the lining. Using the doll face as the lining will give you a better finishing. So I am done cutting the center, front, the side, and I'll go ahead and cut out the back as well. So after cutting out this, I will cut another one for the lining, and I'll also cut out my part. So this is my yoke, this is my skin net, this is the yoke. It is double. I have the front yoke and the back yoke. The back yoke is double also. So I have my lining for my sleeve. I want to add a lining to this sleeve, but you can sew yours without a lining, but I just want to add a lining to it so that it will have the same color with the body of the blouse. So here is the lining. I added a clothes gum to the lining. I added a clothes gum to the lining, so you can add it to the men lining as well. So I added a pad to the men lining, to the men doll face, and this is what I have. So I also cut out the same thing for the back. I added a soft gum to the lining. So I am done cutting out the lace and the rest. So guys, I will upload the sewing video tomorrow. I just wanted to separate them so that I can explain better. I'll definitely upload the sewing video, so subscribe and click on notification bell so that you'll be notified once I upload the sewing video. See you in my next video. Bye.